Welcome, everyone, to episode 1 of Offensive Security Interviews. I'm your host, John Helmus, and this week we interview Kim Nguyen, a student of City University of Seattle and independent security researcher. Recently, Kim did quite a few talks on software exploitation with voice recognition software, as well as talking about the dangers of deepfakes and what voice recognition exploitation has towards that. We also are accompanied by my co-host Jax, who is an individual who's been in the cyber and military field for over 17 years and has experience between boots on the ground to leading teams for various cyber initiatives, as well as even helping out with the cybersecurity election process this year. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 1. All right, so we can go ahead and get going. So, welcome everyone to the first groundbreaking episode of Offensive Security Interviews. Today we have co-hosting myself and Jax, who is a 17-year cyber warfare veteran, and the key player today that is the main talk of the show. We have Kim Nguyen, who is a cybersecurity student for the City University of Seattle. She's also an independent security researcher. And today we're going to actually talk to her about pen testing, offensive security, and as well as AI and voice recognition, which she happens to specialize in. So this is going to be a really fun episode. Really glad that we were able to coordinate this and have this be the first episode numero uno. So with that going let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Kim, to start off, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your background?
Thank you for the welcome. So my name is Kim. I'm from Vietnam, and this is my 4th year in America. I've spent the whole time in Seattle, did travel here and there, but this is where I locate. My background for my bachelor, it was actually a business administration degree. So I had no technical background. And then in between, I did different jobs. I was a paralegal. I used to teach English. I own a restaurant, a bunch of different stuff. And one day I realized that my passion is laying in computer science field. I tried some coding, and I noticed that I really in love with it. So I decided to move my major to master's in computer science. And I have 6 more months until I graduate, and hopefully I'll get a job.
So I have a question, and Jax, please feel free to chime in. It sounds like you have a lot of diversity. Like you have a very, very, very interesting, diverse background.
Mm-hmm.
How has that helped you in your journey through tech so far?
I think for me, one thing that helps, it's because I switch between a lot of positions.
Mhm.
So I have some preparation for me when I switch into computer science. And now I switch from computer science to from software developer to cybersecurity. So it's a lot of switching. And I guess that's helpful for me because I already have the transitioning experience. So I know that there will be struggles along the way when you first switching. You have to get used to the logic and the language of the field that you're going into. So for me, I get that mental prep, and like being able to see the different behavior from people in different fields. It really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Jax, do you have anything to follow up?
I do. So I find it fascinating how you've come in. You had a business administration was your initial, right? It was business administration, and then you pivoted into cybersecurity, and you've done a few things already. So I would like to know, as you pivot in, when you're getting into that new genre of security, you went from software development into now cybersecurity. How long do you feel it typically takes you to start getting a grasp of that new industry that you get into? Do you feel like for me, a foreign language is 6 months is usually my sweet spot. But what would you say for you when you get into a new arena?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I consider myself quite a fast learner. So in that way, I'm a little more fortunate than other people who take longer time. But one thing I notice about cybersecurity area, especially, is hard to find resources to learn from. So even if I can grab things quick, but I think comparing to other fields, it took me longer for cybersecurity. So it took me like um, around 6 months or more to kind of figure out the domains inside cybersecurity, what path I could go, because the main thing I noticed is when you search resources about cybersecurity, everything's mixed up together. There's no clear explanation of the terms of the path, and it's really hard to decide which one do I like, which one am I going with, where do I even start. I think that was the biggest problem for me. I didn't even know where to start because everything you look up is so high level. They all use super complicated, fancy terms, and nobody explained to you what exactly each thing is. So, yeah.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because that was and that's why I said a foreign language takes me 6 months, because sometimes some of the stuff I get into is like a foreign language within cybersecurity. And you nailed everything that I have experienced myself. And I don't know, John, if you've experienced the same thing, but finding resources, he's really smart. That's why. So he's like, I don't have any of those problems, but
Yeah.
Well, not with a language barrier, just because I'm never really introduced to it.
yeah, you research it, and I'm like, the next thing you know, I'm trying to research the terms to figure out the path. Something that helped me, have you ever used the SANS database where they have the roadmap for the career path, or what helped you to try to figure out, okay, this is the field I want to go and this is why?
Yeah, so at least it shows you the roadmap. Definitely,
Yeah.
it gives you more idea of like what exactly each path is doing, and then you can base on that to search more of each term. Yeah, it definitely helped me. And I think actually for me the most helpful one is in the end I ended up just taking courses because it's more structured. I think a little harder in cybersecurity for you to just freelance and Google and you'll find out about it. I think it's hard, and also having mentors. So I talked to John a lot, and he really cleared out for me. But I think without that, it will be very blurry.
I agree with you. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point, and I think it segues good into the next question. Is so you're Linux Plus certified, and you're finishing up a degree. You're finishing up a degree in cybersecurity at a graduate level. What, in your perception, is the differences in the way how those credentials have helped you?
So before I checked the certificates, I used to think that certificates are just certificates. I mean, it's just like a piece of paper. It doesn't really mean anything. But I changed my perspective after I took it, because really for me, I noticed that Linux Plus, it really brings things together. I realized one thing that's missing with the education about software development is it's just focused on software development. There's no connection behind like about networking or cybersecurity, which it shouldn't be that way, right? Everything should go together, but it wasn't. So for me, taking the Linux Plus really bring all the little components that I've been doing in software development. Now it all makes sense. And so actually right now I'm studying Security Plus as well. So
Nice.
hopefully I'll take it this year as well. Because I noticed that, yeah, this is the missing piece that I need. So it does bring it together. I mean, when you develop software, obviously you need to care about cybersecurity too, but seems like it's not the common way in the education. Like it's not very well included. So I think for me, it all bring the pieces together. But still, just because I have a certificate doesn't mean like I'm the master. I still need to practice because otherwise I'm gonna forget it. So yeah, it does help, but I will not get arrogant.
Yeah, I think maintaining humility is a big thing that gets lost in this field. A big thing that gets lost in this field. So we'd already talked about where you go to school. So you go to school at the City University of Seattle. How has your your network helped you out there? Because I mean, you had talked about how like you've been a student of mine and a mentee, and now I mean, transparently, you're getting to the point where you're a mentor now, right? And so how has your network at City University of Seattle helped you grow? One, as a student, and two, as a professional in the cyber industry.
Mm. So what I like about CDU is that the size of the school is not so big. That give me more intimate connections with the people that I intimate is like direct connection with the people I interact with. So for example, like with you, our class is normally only like 30 people maximum, right? So I get more chance to be able to talk to you directly and create meaningful connections. So a lot of people tell you to, hey, go on LinkedIn, add people and have a lot of connections. Well, it doesn't really help to just have a lot of connections. You really need like, to have like meaningful connections. And that's what I learned during all this time, that trying to expand my network and look for mentors. That's the main thing that I realized, that I need to have meaningful connections, the people who actually know what I'm doing, and I know what they are doing, and we spend time with each other. So and from there you can benefit. Like for example with you, John, I was your mentee for a while, but it took you a while, right? Until you can trust me, and I can, you know, that I can do this kind of work, so you can promote me. And based on that, I get a lot of connection from you as well, because you have credentials, so people trust your connection. So yeah, so if anyone's, I mean, listening to this and think just having a lot of connections, try to make it meaningful. It's what I realized. And also because I'm a TA as well, so sometimes a lot of the time I teach the students that already in the field, or they already working. So it really gives us a lot of connection as well, because they work with me directly. They realize that, oh, I'm able to explain to them and help them out with their studies. So they are willing to help out after when they graduate. So that's really cool.
Nice.
So with COVID, I want to caveat on that with you keep saying meaningful connections, and I love that because that is extremely important. With COVID and everything, though, it's been hard to meet people in person. It's been hard to do networking events. So what have you done to curb that, to still find those meaningful connections and build your network?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people struggle with everything going online. It becomes awkward and you don't know how to talk. So for me, I always give people different options based on their preferences. So if you like to chat, I'll chat with you. I will not push it too much. If you like to talk like this, then definitely we can go for it. And also conferences, meetups, and talks. So those are the places that you can look for the people that have the expertise that you're into. And obviously, right, like we went to VexEdCon and all of us saw each other's talk. So we're like, okay, these people seem super awesome. I want to connect with them. Yeah. Um, I guess I've heard stories where people just like, they have a list of speakers in any kind of conference, and they just send the LinkedIn invite, and it's like, hey, I attended your talk. And turns out some of the speaker didn't even go to the talk because something came up. So it's obviously like somebody's trying to expand their network, you know. I don't do that. I if I attend anybody's talk, I will truly listen to it, and when I establish my connection, I will bring up something that obviously show that I was there, that I care. So then it kind of give them the feeling that she actually pay attention to my work. It's not like she's just trying to expand her network. Yeah. So that's what I normally do.
I love that. And I want to pivot on that really quick before we go into the next question I think that John wants to ask. But you and John are mentor mentee. You yourself, are you mentoring anybody? Do you have any mentees under you?
Mm. So I think technically I say yes. Although I don't know if I'm ready to call myself a mentor yet, because I think a mentor, it takes a lot, right? You have to put a lot of effort in. So I try to help people out, but I think I'm not so confident to call myself a mentor yet. But yeah, a lot of TAs who work with me, or students at school, They come to me for advices, and I do help them out. So um, a lot of international students, especially when you are here in America and you're kind of like lost, you don't know your path or what's the strategies you should do, because we have like all the visa tying up and all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of questions, and I basically share with them what I learned from my own experience and what I learned from my mentors as well. Um, and I think it's rewarding when you hear, people say, "Oh, because of you, I do this, and because of you, I changed my perspective." So it's really rewarding. So in that way, I guess, yeah, I'm mentoring people.
You absolutely are. And
Oh,
you're
yeah.
definitely a mentor. You're at that level. I just want you to know that for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I realized that sometime I want to say, I mean, this year feels kind of like one big like loop, but I realized, I think it was like quickly before the beginning of this year that I had um I was designed to be like a mentor or a leader a little bit, because I realized what you said, when you actually realize you play a pivotal point in that individual's career growth or just even professional growth, right? Because we got to, especially now in the COVID era, where like life can be work and work can be life, to really help separate the fact that we're still people. And when I realized that, as a pen tester, one of the big things we like to do is we like to exploit things and get reverse shells and get RCEs and do all the hacking things. And I realized that I got a bigger rush off of helping people grow and seeing someone get that next job or get that next certification, or somehow I helped out their livelihood to where like they got a better paying job, so they were able to buy a house for their family, or things like that. And I realized at the end of the day, I had a bigger rush off of that than I did from actually hacking. And but still using my hacking experience to like help technically guide those trying to get into cyber. And yeah, it's synonymous, exactly what you're saying. And like what Jack says, is you're a mentor, you're leading, you're doing all the right things. So keep on that path.
Yeah. Anybody that's listening to this and wants to reach out to Kim and needs a mentor.
Boom. So with mentoring and everything, we talked about school and stuff. So where are you working currently?
So because I'm an international student, so I can only work inside school. So I'm working at CDU as well as a TA, and I support master degree and bachelor's degree. And part-time, I'm volunteering at a Korean scientist, math and science organization. So they focus on math and science. Yeah. And over there, I'm volunteering as the full stack DevOps engineer. Basically everything.
Full stack DevOps.
DevOps, yeah.
Wow.
It sounds a lot, but it's like full stack. And then we also have to develop and operate. So everything.
So essentially, what you really are is you're the development team at wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That's yeah. How so? Leading. I think a good question to ask off of that is how do you manage that, doing all of that, and manage your sanity?
Good question. I think for me, it's the motivation in mind. So for me, I am the kind of person that if I don't do anything, I will go crazy. And also, I have the 6 months deadline in front of me, so that it really helps. So for me, I have the push that I have to gain a lot of experience, and I want to gain a lot of experience. I want to be ready when I apply for the interviews. So it really gives me a lot of motivation to like all day just like doing this and that, listening to podcasts, technical podcasts, trying to learn every moment. Like even when I wash my dishes, I listen to Security Plus.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it really helps. So yeah, I think it's mostly that because I know that I've spent 2 years. I have made a decision to switch my field from business to computer science, and it's a big decision. I've made it. My family supported me, so I need to make it worth. I'm not going to waste my 2 years. So I think for me, I just put it in front of me, seeing that goal, that I want to be successful on the decision that I made. So it helps me.
I love that. How do you combat burnout through all of that? I mean, you're go. You've got a lot of things on your plate. How do you combat that? Does it ever happen to you?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I love travel. I used to travel every a week, and then every month it's the minimum for me. But since COVID, of course, you stay in the house, and I do go crazy sometimes. I notice I get cranky time to time. So that's when I say, okay, I need to stop. I'm gonna change my routine. So I try to include at least an hour to like play sport now, or get out of the house, or just if I don't get to do that, if it's raining, I'm just gonna clean up or like do anything random around the house, like just cut it off everything. Otherwise it's gonna go crazy. But sometimes I feel like it's not enough because you kind of still stuck in the same city where you are. So during the time that it was in lockdown, then I still go to like to the beach or to the other islands, try to go away a little bit just to have fresh mind. But I think time to time we all need to shut down, just close everything, don't answer anything, like no work related, just relax, just have Netflix and relax for a day, and then you come back and it's more fresh. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
When you say the other islands, what do you mean?
Oh, what is it, like Bainbridge Island, and then a bunch of ones in
So the islands in the Puget Sound, and for those of you watching, the Puget Sound is essentially the water that cuts in between Washington State.
Right. It's not fancy, but it's not that far.
Yeah. I mean, they're nice islands. They're very nice islands. And you said when it's raining outside, I'm thinking like, okay, Kim, you live in downtown Seattle and it's in the winter. It's so this is every day.
Yeah. So I play like what is it called? Badminton and table tennis and tennis. So the days where it's not raining, I can do tennis. I feel like, I don't know why. I think it's just me being weird, but I don't feel like doing tennis indoor. So like I don't go to the courts for tennis. I don't know why. But I go to the courts for badminton. So yeah.
Nice.
So the rainy days, I can do that.
I love it. I love it.
I'm just weird sometimes.
hey, we all have our methods to our madness of what works for us. And during COVID, the playbook has kind of been thrown out, and it's kind of like, just do what works.
Yeah, whatever float your boat.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one more question to ask before we start going into the technical stuff. So the last not technical question for the moment is, if someone were to ask you, say like the leader or director of a team company you wanted to be part of said, hey, I want an elevator pitch, meaning about 30 seconds of what your long-term and short-term goals are, what would you say?
Okay, let's try this. So my 30-second pitch. My short-term goal would be I want to work for a company where I can learn the most. It doesn't matter the size of the company. For me, the most important is the experience and the culture of the company. And the long-term goal is hopefully I can keep being in the environment that I'm enjoying and that I can elevate from. And also I want to move up in my positions. I want to be able to be in a higher position where I can help and mentor other people and also gain more experience. And yeah, was that 30 seconds?
I think so. I have a follow-up question from it, and
Am I hired?
Yeah, am I hired? Done.
Yes, boom. So there's a couple things that I want to point out that I really, really like about your answer. However, there's another thing that I'll point out that it would lead into another question, and if you only got that 30 seconds, it might make you lose like the potential job interview, right? Because we want to make sure that we're concise when we're talking about this stuff. So the big thing that I like is that you did not put monetary value into it at all. You didn't talk about like, I want to make a lot of money. I need a good paying job. I like that you didn't say that, because that shows that you're going to chase the passion and where you want to work first.
Mhm.
I really, really like that. And anybody else who, hears this is going to love that. The one thing that you did mention was something that's big to you is culture. And, if you were just to give me a direct answer of saying, I care about culture, that's awesome. Great. However, in an elevator pitch style, like that's going to also make me think like, okay, well, what does she mean by culture? Because culture varies from place to place. So, because we can, dig a little bit more off of the question is, what do you mean by culture is important to you? Like, what does that mean? What does the perfect culture look like to you?
So for me, the culture that I want to be in is I want to work in a team where I don't feel scared or stressed out to express my opinion to contribute to the team. And also, I want to be able to talk to my teammates about their pros and cons. If they do something that's not perfect, then I want to be able to give them feedbacks, and they'll be able to take it for improvement instead of taking my comments as something offensive. And I want the same for me as well. I want my teammate to please be honest with me, just tell me if there's something I need to improve, or this is something I'm doing good, so I can keep doing that. So for me, it's really important. I don't want to be in the environment where the only thing I can do is just to agree with my boss. I cannot do that. I just want an open, transparency, and honest and creative environment. I love new ideas, so I'm totally for new changes all the time. So I want a creative and honest environment.
Yeah, forward thinking, definitely. Yeah, safe space. I feel like that's a lot of the cultural changes that we're seeing though in this community, especially with the younger generation coming in, because we're not going to deal with the being told what to do and not having a boss listening to us. And we're standing up for that more and more. That I'm starting to notice that the culture shift is starting to happen and people are starting to listen. They have to, or they're not going to get talented people like yourself or like us into their organization. So that's awesome that you already see that, know that, and you know what you want.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to add a little bit on the point that John brought up about monetary aspect. I think after switching between a lot of different things, I now came to the conclusion that it doesn't matter how much money I make, it has to be the thing I like. Otherwise, it's just gonna get boring and it's gonna get stressful at some point. So for people who still not sure yet, just pick something you like, and some point you'll get a lot of money for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The money will follow. The money will always follow. And otherwise you get bored and then you're like Jax and I, and you're just doing a million things at one time.
Right.
And help a lot of other people.
Yourself.
But it sounds like you're already doing that. So
yeah, right.
All right, cool deal. So for the next portion, we got some technical questions because you did some awesome talks this year about bypassing some voice recognition stuff, as well as talking about the dangers of deepfakes. And that's a topic that's been pretty popular lately, especially in the political arena, I guess is the best way to put it. And I'll make sure that we link put some links to your talks in the show notes and all that good stuff. But one of the things that you did that was really scary was being able to essentially hack these devices and to make them do things that they're not supposed to do. So in my mind, I see that as pen testing, and the goal of the pen test this device is to see if you can actually bypass this voice recognition system. So the question then is, what's the definition of pen testing in your own words, and what is the goal of pen testing? And if you want to use it in the terms of like where we're talking about voice recognition, because that's what you specialize in, please do so.
Okay. So my version of the definition of pen testing would be you try to test any software or system or devices or any app to find out if there's any vulnerabilities, there's any spot that you can attack. And the point of you doing that is so you can improve that system or software. It's not for illegal purposes. It's not for taking advantage of it, but it's for the improvement of the software or system.
Yeah, no, I love that. I, as a pen tester myself, I always say that to take away the hacker-esque style away from it is, I always say the point of a pen test is essentially to make whatever you're testing, rather it be an environment, or just an entity, like one thing, your job is to make it better than it was before. That's essentially what your job is. So, Jax, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope, you guys nailed it. That's exactly. I'm not a pen tester by any means, but whenever I talk about and communicate pen testing, make it as simple as possible and just say it's to identify your vulnerabilities and then teach you ways how to better protect your system.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all it is.
So now with understanding, what pen testing is, the next question is, can you explain some different ways of how you would exploit voice recognition systems? Because that's been the stuff that you've specialized in. Even as someone as myself, who's a seasoned pen tester, the stuff that you did blew me away. And I was like, this is nuts. This is crazy. Right. And so I'd love to hear, your thoughts on how you go about exploiting voice recognition systems.
Thank you for the compliment. So when I think about exploiting the system, I think when you say exploiting, a lot of people will think oh, how do I do it with coding or something really hardcore, which is yes, but there's a different perspective that you can think of when you try to exploit something, which I think we call it social engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the methods that I go about with voice recognition system. So one thing is that a lot of people are not so up to date about what's going on right now with the technology, or a lot of people who are our parents' age. So they got a lot of scams, people pretending to call from the bank and say, hey, I need you to give me the code, something like that. So you can definitely do the same for voice recognition system. Because there's a lot of applications that use voice passwords and two-factor authentication coming with the voice passwords. And a lot of the time your voice gets stolen by a lot of different ways. Maybe you have your microphone on, or you have any apps that is in your device that you don't know is malicious and is recording you. And they steal your voice from there, and they try to use it with machine learning to log into whatever the app that you are using, and then they try to call you and ask you to give out the authentication code. So that's social engineering part in related to voice recognition system. And then other stuff that I tried also is there are a lot of machine learning models that you can use to get the victim's voice, some copies of it, and try to train it. And then you can record your voice and then just turn it into the victim's voice. So it's a lot out there. It's floating in the internet. It's not that hard. And also you can attack the speakers, the smart speakers directly.
Wait, okay. I was about to say, you said attack speakers because has someone? I had to stop you there because has someone as an audio? I have an audio engineering background from 10 years ago, and a speaker is essentially just a microphone.
Right.
It just it pushes out sound instead of taking in sound. So when you're saying hacking speakers, I was like, wait, what? I'm about to turn all the speakers off in my in my house.
Smart speakers. Right. Yeah. Smart speakers. You can definitely attack it directly. If there's any vulnerability in the system, sure, you can do that. And I think even Alexa this year, they found a problem not inside Alexa, but more in the server side. And you can definitely steal the user's records from there. But it was a pen testing project, so nobody got stolen anything. But it's very well possible. And also, you can definitely send payloads if you have any smart speakers and try to, disconnect it or let it do things that it doesn't supposed to. And also, there's a lot of what is it called? Alexa skills. And also the same thing for Google Home. You can develop skills for those smart speakers, and you can it will go through scanning in the beginning, but once your app is or your skills is published, you can definitely modify it, and it will not go through scanning it one more time. So at this point, you can definitely edit it to make it be more.
Wait, so I'm imagining. I understand what the skill it's like the skill library that you can download into Alexa, right? It's essentially like the Google Play Store for Alexa, right? But what you're and tell me if I heard this wrong. So you say you're a developer and you develop a legitimate app that has security safeguards in place. You put that and it gets scanned, and they say, okay, cool, you can publish here. And then you can essentially do an update push to it and completely modify the code and make it essentially unsecure, or you could make it something it's completely not, and it doesn't get scanned.
Yeah, the second time they don't get scanned anymore. So that's how they edit the skills after. So it's
Whoa.
really like don't download that many skills. I mean, you never know.
Y'all heard it.
Yeah, I think they might change that policy though, because people notice this as well, and it's like people have been reporting this. So I think perhaps they're gonna change it. I'm not 100% sure if they did, but definitely that's something scary.
That's
Yeah.
scary. Kim, so I want to know, what are some things that for our listeners, because this is scary. What are some things? As you're talking, I'm thinking there's got to be some techniques, some tools that they can utilize to check their phones for vulnerabilities or anything. What would you suggest?
So for me, I because I'm more like focused on smart speakers. So for me, I'm a little paranoid about it. I still have Alexa and all that, but I mute them all unless I use them. So that will help you from, having them listening to you and getting all your private conversations. And also, if you notice like your phone started to weird stuff, chances are something's going on. And also,
If my phone is doing anything it's not supposed to be doing, I'm going to be like, that's weird.
Yeah.
have to buy a new phone. Also, they have, I don't think it's so common anymore, but who knows? Maybe people will bring it back. What is it called? Dolphin attack. So they can hide, like they have hidden commands inside any videos or audio on the internet. And actually it's like script, and only your phone or your smart speakers can listen to them. It's in a high pitch that human cannot hear it.
Dolphin attack. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So they will send like actions to whatever the smart speakers that you're using in smart assistants, and it will start to do things that it doesn't supposed to. I think with iPhone it's more secure, but with Android phone, it's some of them do execute some actions.
I don't have any Alexa or anything, any smart devices outside of my phones and computers in this in my place. None.
Give me an hour and I won't have any.
He's like, I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you talked about all this stuff in the presentations that you gave this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that was like, I remember seeing it and being in the virtual crowd, which had real people in it, and people just being pushed away by the fact that you were able to execute that, and the devices were actually listening, and it was oof.
Right. Yeah. I think, and I also want to have the proof of concept as well for that conference, and I didn't want to like go through all the pain of like actually attack the real Alexa. I mean, I did try my own, which it didn't go through, which is good, but I wouldn't want to try further because like it will require more like permissions from Amazon, so I didn't have enough time. But I tried to create a smart speaker program, and then I put the malicious, and not really malicious, but like I just put my functions in a way that is not secure, and it totally did record all the conversations. So you just don't know what exactly your smart speakers can do.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. So on to the next question is, so you talked about like social engineering and things like that, and there's a lot of different techniques that you can use for social engineering, but the big question, I think this could be a very provocative topic to talk about. So however, this is a safe space on the internet, so we can talk about it. But so yeah, neutral. With voice recognition and all this like bypassing stuff that you're talking about, and being able to essentially have devices that are voice activated do things that they're not supposed to do. Voice recognition, where it also essentially recognizes the voice that's talking to it. Like I have an Alexa that like I talk to it, and it will actually recognize my voice and say, oh, good morning, or have a great day, Jonathan, things like that. So one of the big pivoting from that, one of the big things that you talked about was deep fakes, and deep fakes talk a lot about, with like mimicking voices and faces and things like that. So, politics have been really big this year because, it's an election year because of the coronavirus and things like that. So what
in your opinion, with all the stuff that we've just talked about, what's the dangers of that it has on politics and just political culture in general?
I think it can be very serious when it comes to politics and propagandas and trying to bias the opinions of people, and especially where it comes with social media, right? You can post whatever you want, and it will take a while for the system to detect false information to take it down. And I think for either party, it doesn't matter which party you support. The false information that supports that party, it shouldn't be out on the internet because it's going to be biased for people regardless. I think whatever, is it going to be a good effect or a bad effect, is still going to be a biased and untruthful information. And it's going to be a lot harder for us to then clean it up and explain to people that, hey, it's not the truth, because a lot of people just choose not to believe that. And it can definitely, when it comes to politics, it can be much more complicated. You can bring some people down, and you can also create a lot of like division between people because of all of these crazy fake audios or videos that you can produce. So I think in terms of politics, it can be dangerous. So you have to be really, really careful and just question everything you see on the internet these days. You don't know. The technology is really good right now, and it's really hard to tell which one is a defect video or audio.
Did you see anything during the election time, especially since this is kind of your world? I was working election support, so my big focus for cyber threat intel was to pay attention to the disinformation campaigns and how they were just funneled through the different media platforms. Mm-hmm. And I was paying attention to mostly text, but although I knew that there were deep fakes out there, but like you said, they're extremely hard to identify and they take a lot of time sometimes. So it's tough. But during the elections, did you see any that you could give examples of that you saw during that time that had come through your community, or maybe you saw just in general?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like people putting videos together or like trying to voice over it and like fix the way the lip moves. I've seen a lot of it, and some of them the quality not so bad, not so good. So you can tell, okay, it's obviously fake. But for people who are not so tech savvy, for them it's gonna be the truth. They don't know that it's a possibility for you to edit the video and make it look like this. So I've seen a lot. I flag them. I report them to Facebook, and I seen a lot like was taken down. And I noticed something cool about Facebook is they started to have the new feature where they have the flag under any political post. They say, "Did you check the most updated information?" And here is the actual information. So it's kind of help, I guess, but still a lot of people they choose to believe what they see, which will be so hard to try to clear it up after.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Most people I know during the elections, there were some of my friends that didn't want to watch the debates, and I was in a group chat, and one of the people in the group chat literally said, "Oh, I'm just not going to watch the debate. I'll get the updates on Facebook." And I'm like, I understand how much disinformation and then misinformation comes from disinformation. I don't trust anything that I see typically on a Facebook news feed or anything like that, unless. And what people don't realize too is sometimes these deep fakes can get planted on a legitimate website. And right. And then how do you know if it's real or not? It's on a legitimate website, but maybe the website owner hasn't seen it yet to pull it down. That's another thing that I've seen.
Right. Yeah. And also beyond that deepfake, after somebody see the deepfake information, and then they will believe it and they will keep sharing it. Yep. And then it goes so crazy.
Yep.
And then it just spreads.
Yep. And that's exactly it. Because we have disinformation, which is the first adversaries put it out there. And then, somebody grabs it, shares it. Now we have misinformation, and it just spreads like wildfire. Mm-hmm. We're going into an interesting time with deep fakes, and I don't know how we're going to be able to control it as our AI increases, the good guys' AI, so did the adversaries' AI. And with that, you have deep fakes and all of this. Yeah. Be interesting in deep learning and the voice recognitions. Yep.
Yeah. It's technology, but it can be dangerous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Y'all are way over my head. That's nuts. I Yeah, man. You know, you talked a lot of points about like culture and social engineering and everything, and you know, it sounds like, you know, we've seen this past year where like a lot of the big hacks didn't take any technical competence, like advanced technical competence, I guess is the better way to put it, right? With like the Twitter attack, where it was just some teenagers in Florida,
Social engineering.
and it's just social engineering, right? And imagine, like, you know, you had talked about the dolphin attack, and imagine, you know, some, you know, really ticked off, you know, political party, doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat, just some ticked off party, and a bunch of kids just go out there and like start launching essentially these like deep fake social engineering attacks. And
Mhm.
that just it sounds scary. It sounds scary because, you know, politics are one of those hard things, you know, it's one of those hard things to keep level headed, right? With like business, there's the saying of like, hey, don't take it personal, it's just business, right? Because business is business. And that's why we keep, you know, politics and religion out of business a lot of the times, because they typically, you know, they derive a lot from feelings, the way how you feel something should be done, right?
Mhm.
Or on your beliefs of how something is, or what you know, whatever anything is.
Mhm.
And you know, it's interesting to see how like you can use that political platform, because you know that derives from people's feelings, and you can use that as an actual like technical exploit,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
And you know, there was a word that resonated with me just because of the hacker mindset that I have, is payload. What does a voice recognition payload look like?
Mhm.
I think it looks pretty much similar to others. A bunch of functions. I think the one I used was Python. So it just, you know, basically like, oh, look for it. If the port is open, then do this, do that. So it's basically same payloads, not that special.
Mhm.
A bunch of files. Main one to this. I think the three I used. One is just to try to bring down the connection between the smart speaker and the network that they are there, and then get in. And the last one is whatever the function you want to do, whatever that you want to have your smart speaker do. So looks pretty much the same concepts. It's yeah.
I imagine like being able to like break through the perimeter of some security perimeter of a company, and being able to launch like some voice recognition payload that essentially launches at like the VoIP phones and starts putting out like broadcasting messages as someone else.
Yeah, I think definitely that can happen.
Yeah, that's the adversarial mindset of that I don't like to talk about, because then people are, if it happens, then somebody's gonna be like, he said it.
Uh, because he said it's gonna happen.
Right. So yeah, so there was another question that I had lined up, but you actually already have answered it. So so the next question, I guess, to fall out more of like out of the technical questions and to just like kind of like start dwindling down, is you know, one of the things that, you know, being someone who mentored you over the year, you know, and something you did that really stepped up to the plate was you spoke at security conferences. And I always, you know, from working with me that like I try to, you know, keep you out of your comfort zone. That's the big thing. And one of the biggest things is to start taking your ideas and speaking in front of people. And you did it, you know, and it's awesome. Like everyone's really proud of you, and it was so awesome, and you did a great job, and like you turned heads. I mean, we're talking about it today. And but you know, as a student, what was it like presenting at a security conference, and what has that done for you?
Mhm. So I really like what you said about stepping out of the comfort zone. It really, literally, that's what happened with me. I've always wanted to speak at conferences, but I always like have this kind of plan that I have to graduate first. I need some years of experience before I can speak in front of people, and they're gonna listen to me or not. Yeah, so I've always have that fixed in my mind. And then one day John just pinged me like, "Hey, you want to speak at a conference this year?" It's like, "Sure." What do I do? And he just kind of lead me through what I should do. And I was like, "Wow, I don't think I'm gonna be accepted." And I was like really, really nervous before even applying. I think like it's just gonna be, you know, a waste of time. Nobody's gonna even look at my profile. But I still went ahead and applied. And interestingly, I got accepted. So I think I put too much pressure on myself. I have the image of like I have to be perfect.
Mhm.
Um, And then after I got accepted, I was super nervous about my talk. I was like, everyone is super experienced. I look at everyone's profile and I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna think what I talk is ridiculous. They're gonna think like, I'm too entry level. Nobody's gonna be interested. And what if they ask questions that I cannot answer? So there was a lot of nervous questions in my head. And I remember when I was presenting, I was like sweating, trying to look calm, but I was like sweating. And but then after that, like people really encouraging. The community was just really nice, and people ask questions, and people were impressed about it. So I was like, wow, it's the whole thing. It's just me being hard on myself, just putting too much pressure on my own self. So for any students, I think who's also wanting to do the same way, just go ahead and apply. It doesn't cost you anything. It just, if it's a no, then it's a no. That's the worst you can get, right? The worst is a no. And you can always try next year. I applied for this year 3 conferences. I got accepted 2. So I also got a rejection, and it's fine. It doesn't feel as bad as I planned it to be. At all. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of learning experience. I have this wrong impression about technical conference in my head versus the reality. It's much more friendly, and people are much more supportive than I thought. And definitely, I gain a lot of connections after this. You guys, one of the example.
Oh,
And there are
shucks.
several, yeah, several people as well. They message me, and then we stay in touch because we have the same interest. Yeah, it really helps. Just
So
go
I
ahead.
have a two-part question on that I want to ask you about. So some of the things that you were saying, and I hear it a lot of times in the community, primarily from women too, but also from men, is imposter syndrome. And so we hear this, especially within a very technical community, because you get around people and you get into a room and you're like, oh my God, everybody's smarter than me. And you get afraid of going and doing talks. I've been there as well. So it sounds like you just push through and you just put yourself out there, but have you identified any techniques that you can offer to any of the listeners that you personally have done to encourage yourself to step out of your comfort zone and do more things to grow yourself? Or do you just push through and you make it happen? What is that?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of both. I just push through, and then I convince myself to, hey, in the end of the day, it's about yourself, and it's fine. There's always gonna be someone who's better than you. So it's gonna be the reality every time. So it doesn't matter you at what level you are, somebody is gonna know something that you don't. And it doesn't matter what level that person is. It's just somebody always have something interesting for you to learn. It really the perspective in your mind. So I have this saying that I always live with, that never be the smartest person in the room. And I just based on that, and it really helps me to just get into any room and go with it. I accept the fact that I will not know everything, and it just makes me more comfortable. It's like, well, I already know that. So if somebody correct me, good. I learn. I correct myself. So no big deal. So I hope that people can start to think like that, to just accept the fact that there can always be a chance where you don't know everything. So just be comfortable with it. It's just reality.
The second part of this question is you've used the figurative word, or stating I've been in the room. Like, what does it feel like to be a woman in the room?
Right. It's a really, really great question. I've been there. I definitely feel the pressure of, men speaking so loud and it's all over you. And I think women have this problem of always waiting for other people to finish the sentence first. And like, is it a good time for me to step in? The politeness, like it's sometimes too much politeness. And I had that in the beginning, especially when I first entered computer science. Oh my God, everyone's just like keep talking and it's so loud. And I was like, well, I'm here and everybody thinks that I'm a female. I probably don't know anything. So it even like give me more anxiety and insecurity. But at some point I was like, okay, I have enough of this. I'm just gonna speak, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I started to learn to like raise my voice higher. Before I used to speak like really fast, and like the volume is not so high, and sometimes people just cross over me. But now I'm like, okay, if I want to have a spot, if I want people to notice me, I've got to speak louder. and just take my time when I speak. I used to be rushy. I was like, I don't want to waste people's time. I'm just gonna go fast, fast, fast. And then, well, don't do it. If you're doing it, don't do it. Just like slow down, take your time, and it is the moment of yours. So just express whatever the opinion you have, and of course, be polite, and make it loud and clear. And at some point, people will start to notice you, and then slowly you will gain that confidence. So I think for me, that's the struggle I had in the beginning. It was, I don't even know when I can start showing myself.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job. Good for you. I love that. That's awesome.
Man, I'm just like, I'm blown away over here. I'm just like,
Time to
deer in
be
the headlights,
quiet.
like, whoa. Yeah. Plus, you guys are like, oh, these loud men. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna quiet down now.
Yeah. But she's so right. I know exactly how she feels, and I'm just like, oh my God, would they ever just shut up? Yeah, you have to speak up, and like you said, you have to not only speak up, but speak. It's crazy what you were saying. I used to do. I used to have a loud voice. I've always had a naturally loud voice. Maybe because of my military, but I used to talk so fast, and I used to be told all the time, you have to slow down. And it wasn't until I started doing some reflection that I realized I was talking fast because I didn't want to waste people's time. But you nailed it. Like that time that we have, and when we talk, that's our time, and we just have to hold true to that. And when I first started doing that, it's uncomfortable, and you just keep doing it and keep doing it. And eventually it becomes really comfortable, and people start to listen to you.
Right. Yeah. So now people look at me with a sparkling eyes, like, wow, how do you do it? You know,
I love it.
It's so cool. Well, yeah, you just have to go through that phase. Just step up, just take over that time of yours, and just take the confidence, I guess.
I love that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's yeah. What's your Kim? What's your thoughts on not just diversity, but like inclusion for women in tech?
I think it's getting better, definitely. I remember in the beginning when I first joined, is still the time that a lot of people try to move into tech, and a lot of people who's already in tech don't like that very much, because I hear a lot of comments towards me that you guys are not really in this for the tech, but you want to have this job because tech people get paid a lot. And it's like, okay, even if that's the point, then
that's not even a good review.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of like discouragement, especially I was surprised. I have a lot of discouragement from women as well, who's already in tech, because for them, they are the minority, they want to take this advantage, and they don't need more people to get into the field. And I absolutely hate that. I don't encourage it at all. But definitely now is getting better and better, now that we have all these activities that we try to balance in tech, and like try to bring women up in tech. So I definitely noticed the difference. And especially I learn a lot from people who I go to conferences or talks, and I noticed there are people who try to help out. Like if somebody noticed that, and a lot of time it's men, which is very interesting. A lot of the time, like people notice like, oh, this girl's trying to speak up, and like she's shy about it, so like they try to clear out the time for me, and I learned from that. So I try to notice people around me. If there's any woman in the room who looks like she used to be where I was, I try to let her shine as well. But I notice it's getting more and more friendly, especially my teammates. They don't have any action that looks like, wow, because she's a girl, something like that. Absolutely not. And people are more willing to share their knowledge now. And I think, especially with cybersecurity, where, a lot of people think that hackers are like really cool men sitting in the back, and women cannot do that stuff, but we've been proving that it's not the truth. So I think it's improving. We still have.
You said something a little edgy there, and I am not trying to provoke you to answer it. So please say please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's a good point to highlight. Is you mentioned that you noticed that let me back up. Gatekeeping is often referenced to the male dominant workforce, leadership workforce, making it nearly impossible for anyone who's not, a male, or even in this case, white males, to get into the leadership roles, which is extremely, extremely backwards. It's archaic. You're going to create a company of dinosaurs if you do that. But you said something interesting. You said you were trying to even work with female leadership and noticed how they were making it hard to get in. So would you say that gatekeeperism is not gender, it's not directed to just one gender, it's gender agnostic?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely the truth. It's just people keep thinking it's the guys because in this field, most of the population is male. So that's why people tend to think that it's just male only, but actually female does it too. You
Yep.
just don't notice as much because there's not as many of us there. But definitely, I don't think it's the gender problem. It's the mindset, I guess.
It's definitely the mindset. It's I think that's not even industry. That's industry agnostic. You can see that anywhere you go.
Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, finishing this up. Really right now, I want to try to allow you to ask Jax and I a question or two. That I know we were bantering and talking about it, but if you have any questions for us now would be the time to ask a question.
I do have some questions for you guys. So let's say I think this is where I used to have the struggle as well. I think I'm still having. So let's say for people who try to transition into cybersecurity, where should they even start? What is the first step they can even take?
Do you want to take this, John?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I can. Otherwise, yeah. I think I'm the most recent transitioner compared to John, probably.
I think. Wait, restate the question again. Sorry.
For someone who's trying to transition into cybersecurity, what should they do? Where can they start?
It all starts with the people you know.
What if they don't know anyone?
Then you gotta get. Then being out of your. One of the biggest things is staying out of your comfort zone with introducing yourself to new people. Like you said, speaking at a security conference, it really opened up your network to knowing other people. Going to school is going to help it and open up your network. I know more people that got into cyber because they met someone that got them into the field rather than what they know. Because a lot of the emphasis is on like, you got to get this cert and you got to get this degree and you got to know this skill and yada, 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 which is 100% true. However, if you don't know anybody that can help share that skill set out, then it's just your skill set. You can't, this is a field about helping others. And so if you don't know anybody to help, then you're essentially just in the background. So, the biggest thing, the unspoken thing that I think is the big thing that needs to be focused on is, it's very detailed and very, compartmentalized on like the skill sets that you need to get. Like you want to be a policy writer. Okay, well then you need to go do this, this, and this. You want to be an ethical hacker. You need to do this, this, and this, and this. But what a lot of times what fails to get noticed or mentioned is that, hey, you need to also make sure that you build your network within the field. And that's, I love what you said. You said that, talking to people that are smarter than you and things like that. There's a key rule where it says you need to have peers, people that are at the same level as you. You need to have people below you that you can mentor. And I don't mean below you meaning like they're less off than you, but like they're getting started. And then you need to have people above you that help push you so that you have a North Star to follow. And essentially that the people, someone in that community that you create for yourself, someone who is a mentee might actually become a mentor or might become your mentor. And you never know, like some of your friends might become cyber people and they might be able to help get you in the field. But it's so black and white on what you need to do to get into the field. It has a lot as far as like skill sets and certs and degrees and all that stuff, but it's the community that you build around yourself that's going to help you. On to you, Jax.
Wow, I think you nailed everything. I would just add to that. A lot of people think when they first start to get in to the community, into the field, they start thinking about certifications right away or education. And those are important, but those are only important when you figure out where you want to go. And you're not going to be able to figure that out unless you have a roadmap. And as we talked about at the start of this, that can be extremely challenging to find when you get onto Google and you try to research it. So the purpose of having a network and reaching out to people is to ask them questions like, what do you do? What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? And that has helped me along my journey. And I know, coming from cyber threat intel, I know when people approach me and they think cyber threat intel is just about just intelligence, or they don't understand the full aspect of the hunt side of it, plus the report writing and the briefs that you have to get. That's not the same in penetration testing or as an engineer, depending on the field. So I always encourage, get on LinkedIn. It's a great platform. Start reaching out to different tech communities, to read a blog. There's so many tech blogs. Get on Medium, find some of the key leaders in the industry, start reading some of these amazing blogs that talk about cybersecurity 101 and understand what an IOC is or an APT and things like that. That's my biggest advice. Just research, but don't research certs. Research blogs, research people. Medium. Yeah, I love Medium.
Me too. So basically get your path first before you get any certs.
Yes. And don't educate for the job that you want. Get familiar with the people that are in those positions, because that's how you're going to identify. Because and so do John, you get into these jobs and it's so much it's different than what you expected it was going to be.
Oh man.
Yeah, always. And I always tell people that it seems really sexy on the outside, but penetration testing isn't just hacking. Like, it's not. It's so much more. CTI is so much more. But a lot of people don't know that, because all they see is like news feeds or, the movies that are out now about hacking.
Oh my God. All the crazy stuff going on the screen.
Yes. Like iRobot. Like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
To I guess defend not iRobot, Mr. Robot. That show is actually like 90% of the stuff they do in that show is actually like pretty
legit.
Accurate,
yeah. Mr. Robot is awesome. I actually like that TV show. It's pretty cool.
I think it's like Mr. Robot is the cybersecurity people TV show, right? Yeah.
No, it's a good show. It's a really good show. They did a really, really good job of making that show.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions, Kim?
Yes. So let's see. Where is it? Okay. So I think a lot of people, so on the same topic of, trying to find the domains that you want to go for. Do you guys have any suggestion for people who, let's say they have like absolutely zero idea? Because I talk to a lot of students and they have absolutely zero idea of what's their interest. So there are a lot of people that like, I'm interested in several things, or I'm not sure what my interest is. So I just know I kind of like the field. So if there's somebody like that who just, they just know that they like cybersecurity, but they can't really make up their mind about which field. Is there any suggestions that you guys can give for maybe a trending more, the field that has more opportunity in the future, or any suggestions for the people that's in this situation?
Yeah, I can go on this one. So I actually wrote an article on this because in this industry, there's a lot of certifications and they cost a lot of money. So I tell people, if they're interested and they know they're interested and they want to get into this field, go and take a Udemy course or a Cybrary course. I don't know if you can put those up on there, John, but those are great resources. They can go research them. A lot of times they have free classes or like 75 to 80% off courses. They have cyber ethical hacking, CTI courses. This is an amazing way for somebody to get in and basically dip their toes in it without spending $2,000. They might spend $20 to maybe $300 on and I say certification, but they do get a certification. It's just a Udemy certification, which is nothing wrong with that. But that would be my suggestion. And then it goes back to having them read articles from the experts. And then there's a ton of free YouTube videos that they can get into. They'll learn about coding and seeing if that's what they want to get into. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, if you're looking for free resources, Udemy is the best way to go. And it all kind of for me, it always falls back on like build your network. because Jack said something that really resonated with me. I love that she said, don't follow the job title. Don't like get hooked on the job title and learn the job title. Learn the community of the people that you're looking to go work with, and see the skill sets that they have. And that's really going to help give you like a ground level understanding of what you're going to be doing and who you're going to be working with. So I like that. I've actually never heard that before.
It's true though. If you think about all the genres and then all the people in each of those departments. They're all really unique in their own little ways.
True.
Yeah. That's very true. I love it.
Yeah. Good advice. Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
So let's say for somebody who wants to apply for a pen testing job,
run.
What do they have in their profile?
All their PII. When you say, so when they're trying to apply for a pen testing role, pen testing is one of those roles that where it varies, honestly. Because I've worked with pen testers who had every cert under the sun, or they had no certs. So some that had no coding background, some that did have coding background. I've worked with pen testers that, I don't know. Pen testing is one of those interesting things where, coming from a background where I've worked with, I've worked in help desk, and I've worked in sysadmin, I've worked in network admin, network security, and DoD security, and there was always like a strict path on like what you had to develop to do that. And with pen testing, there is, but there's also like variables that you need to have that just like you can't put on a resume. And one of the big things is like curiosity. Like when I talk to incoming pen testers or individuals that want to be pen testers, I really engage in their curiosity. And how I do that is I essentially ask open-ended questions. And I ask open-ended questions because it allows them to basically like I think about it as like a diving board, right? The question is the diving board, and the pool they're about to jump into is 100 feet deep. And I give them the diving board, the question, and allow them to make the jump and dive down as deep as they want to, and am able to assess their curiosity based on how far down they dive. So like if I ask an open-ended question, like what's the difference between encryption and encoding, I can assess like their curiosity about like how deeply they dive into that topic. And so like when I'm asking those questions, that's how I look for pen testers. When it comes to like a resume, as long as you have like not a vast, but you have a diverse background, rather it's in academia or it's in, in the real world, it doesn't really matter to me. But different employers will say different things. Like, you might have to have a bachelor's degree in at least some like STEM program. A lot of them want you to have OSCP, which I don't agree with, but that's a talk for a different day. But in the general guidelines of doing pen testing, it's just, if I were to look at your resume and see that you have like a bachelor's in, business administration, now you're getting a master's in computer science, and you have Linux Plus, and you've talked to places, that to me says you're a good candidate to talk to about becoming a pen tester, if that makes sense.
So I'm hired.
Yes. So just have a diverse background. Have a diverse background with some STEM thrown in there, really is the best way to put it.
So technically, cybersecurity is really good for transitioning then, for people who want to transition from other fields, right? Because
yeah. I mean, to give the like 10-second elevator pitch of my background, I went from I was audio engineering to military, where I was like I did some special ops stuff for a while, and I was a boat guy, a small boat guy, and then I originally actually wanted to go be a police officer, and I couldn't do that because my knees are torn apart, and then now I'm in pen testing, and now I'm leading pen testers and things like that. So it's but everything I learned beforehand really, really helped out. I also worked in food service when I was a teenager, from like the age of 13 to like 19. So that really helped out. Jax, I know you have a diverse background too. So if you want,
it is. Are we sharing our diverse backgrounds now?
Well, she had asked, like, she had mentioned like diverse background making an impact on like the way how you think now.
Oh my God, mine's so military as well, special ops, and then it really went from being in IT, then doing intelligence, and then I actually was I still am an electronic warfare officer, so I went in from IT into EW is what we call it. So that then transitioned into cyber intel. I just merged them all together pretty much, and then so it's definitely been a transition for me, and then. I want to get into more threat hunting. So it'll just complement the overall cyber threat intel and how I write and understand my reporting that I'm going to be putting out. Yeah. It's awesome.
Speaking of writing, also you mentioned Medium earlier, and I know, John, you encourage writing as well. So how do you say how helpful it is for people, let's say new as well, entry level, especially students, to practice writing on Medium or just on their own, not posting anywhere, but how helpful is it for cybersecurity?
Yes, all of it. Do it.
Yes, all of it.
You need to. Absolutely. Well, within my field, talking from CTI, I know that not only on the academia side, more so when I launched my own tech blog, that's when I really started redefining my writing skills and my tech writing skills and I did that at the first of this year. And not only does it help structure your mind of what you put on the paper, but you start speaking in a more refined way. And that's really important, especially when you're working with clients and you're trying to talk about your products. When you start putting what's in your head down on a piece of paper, you're able to streamline it better. And so when you're talking to individuals that may not know what you do, you can break it down much easier because you've been working through that process of putting it into paper. So there's so many positive. I know a lot of people don't like to write, but I encourage it because there's so many positive things that come out of writing that I encourage. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 100% on the same page. And then, going back to my special ops days, there was a mentor that I had that he was like an ultra marathon runner, Ironman kind of guy. And he always told us he's like, you want to get good at running? Well, you know how you get good at running? You just run. You keep running, and the more you run, the more you run. It's the same thing with writing. The better you want to become better at writing, the more you write, the more you write.
That's true. That's true.
And it really helped that skill set.
I definitely feel what Jack say about having your minds clearer when you write. I feel that too. I notice like when I try to explain some concept, I go all over the places. But when I start to write down, it becomes super concise. So
it's a story. Yeah, it's absolutely a story. And you have to tell at CTI, we have to tell a story, but there's a story in all of cybersecurity. Like, how do you tell when an adversary, a threat actor has penetrated your network? And how do you tell the story of what happened in the PowerShell getting downloaded and it moving laterally? And you put it out, and then you put it on a piece of paper, you start seeing, oh, that doesn't make sense. It makes sense in your mind, but then you start writing and you're like, oh, I'm missing part of this story. Somebody outside of this community wouldn't understand it. So I tell everybody to write. Start a blog, because then you'll be more critical on yourself if you get on Medium and you start posting, because you'll know that people are going to possibly read your articles. Yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate all the time that we've taken. We've been here for a while, so this was awesome. So just Kim, to follow up with a couple things from everything we've talked about is, the big thing about this, we make you the host essentially, so one thing I want to ask you is, are you are currently doing all these side projects, but are you still looking for work? And if so, where, and not a company in general, but like what field are you looking at within cyber?
So I'm definitely looking for a job. I will graduate in 3 to 6 months. I haven't decided yet. If anybody hires me right now, I can graduate in 3 months. But I am looking for a job full-time, hopefully. So for me, I still want a mix between software development and cybersecurity. That will be my ideal option. But if not, I'm down for pen testing or just software development.
I'm thinking application security.
Yeah, that's my interest actually. I'm paying more attention on application security, especially mobile, because I notice I don't know why people don't pay so much attention on that. So So yeah, so that's definitely my interest right now.
Awesome. And then the last question is, where can people find you on social media if they want to contact you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Should I send you the link?
We'll make sure that your LinkedIn's in the show notes and all that good stuff.
Okay, so they can find me on LinkedIn, and I have a Medium as well. I should write more, but I have one. And yeah, so those are I'm the most online.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put those in the show notes. That's all I got. Jax, you got anything else?
No, yes.
Oh,
this is amazing. Thank you, Kim. I'm so happy that you came on the show and talked with us and just gave your perspective. It's amazing. You're amazing and you're refreshing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. And I definitely learn a lot from you guys, especially how you express yourself, how you express your opinion, the posture, and how you can, give credit to whatever you're saying. I definitely learned it today. So thank you guys so much for having me and letting me share this.
Yeah,
It
it was glad to have you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode of Offensive Security Interviews. If you want to find out more about our guest Kim, you can go look her up on Nguyen.com, which is her blog, or you can look her up on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to add all of her talks in the show notes, as well as a link to her LinkedIn if you'd like to reach out to her. And a big shout out to my co-host Jax for being available for the episode. If you want to find out more about Jax, I'll make sure to link her LinkedIn profile in the show notes. And if you'd like to keep watching, please subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.